Hi, this is Mike Cuddy, and I'm talking to you about my latest project. And I have to say that it's been about 3 weeks since I finished this project, but I couldn't get it up because I got really sick with bronchitis for some of that time. So I've been meaning to do this project since then. But overall, I think it's actually a project I'm really proud of, and I really liked how it turned out. Now, basically, what it allows you to do is if I'm a gardener, let's say, like I love to garden personally, and the amount of trash that I have that my wife and I are making for compost, it just doesn't, it's not enough. And so, if I wanted to contact more people in my neighborhood that would be willing to give me their organic waste, I could add it to my compost bin. So, it allows you to find people in your neighborhood that need that trash, that will be willing to give you some of their organic trash. So here's like the landing page, and I did something different in this project. Instead of almost all my other projects, you land at usually at the login page, and you go to the sign up page. But this one, it has this kind of like splash page, which you can just kind of talks about the whole app and how it works and what Compost is. So that's that page, and of course it's all responsive. I use CSS Grid really heavily in this project. So as you can see, it all kind of changes back down and makes it responsive for a smartphone. So let's head on over to the login page. And here's that page. And I usually don't keep the footer down at the bottom. In this project, I decided to do that. I really want to change some of my designs up a little bit, even though this is the same thing I do over and over again. So, but on the latest project that I'm working on, I slightly changed this up, and you'll see that when I post that video in a few weeks. So if I go over to the sign up page, I'll just show you this, that when you come in here, it changes, and you can see the words up there, help to turn organic waste into compost. So this is how a user signs up, and I use the Python geolocation to turn a user's address into latitude and latitude coordinates, which I need for the Google Maps API. So that's that aspect of the project. Now let's go back into logging in. I'm going to say I'm not going to spend too much time with the code in this project because this project I think is really good. I really like talking about it, but we'll see where everything ends up. But here is I signed in with a guy named Gus, a user named Gus, and here's a user named Eric. There's his email if you wanted to contact him. The green dot is where you are, and the red dot is where they are. So you can see it'll show you where they're located. And here's another person, Ted. So they would live over, I of course stay living here in the same area, but they live up in this part of the neighborhood. I just chose random addresses from my neighborhood. And here's Jay as well, and it will show you where he lives. So that's that page. And then over here I have this Why Compost page, which again talks a lot more in depth about compost and why you should do it. And then it talks a little bit about right here about my journey with composting and why I've done it. And if I go, of course, it's all built with CSS Grid, this page, so it's fully responsive. I have to say I really enjoy using CSS Grid on this project. And then if I go right here to the Edit Profile page, this is the first time actually in all my projects I've actually had an Edit Profile page. And I've always like just flat out forgotten to do it. So here the user can change their profile information in the database, in the MySQL database. So that's everything right there. And now I'll go to the sign out page, which takes you back to the sign up page. But one thing I wanted to point out in the code in this project that I really messed up, and I wrote the big long note here, is I have this class user, and I could have initiated everyone right here, which I basically did. But look what I did right here. I created a whole other method to pass in all this stuff to create the user. All this should be up here. And in my newest project, I fixed that. I have no idea why I did that, and that's really wrong. And I wrote a note basically of how much of a moron I was to do that. But that basically should be up there. So here's the main file of the project. So one other thing I wanted to point out really bad is if you notice a lot of my projects, I have like the nav bar, and if I bring up the templates, like let's look at landing page and then login, you see the nav bar is here on the login page, it's here on the sign up page, it's here on the landing page. It all should actually be in this base file. And the reason why it's not is it should really be essentially right up in this area right here, like right in this area. so it would appear on every page. That's why the footer can appear on every page. But the reason why I don't have it like that is because I need it for when the user is signed in, that the nav bar appears one way, and when they're signed out, it appears another way. And I've just always like never bothered to take care of that in every one of these Python Flask projects. And finally now, in my latest project, I've spent time fixing that. So the nav bar will actually be in the base file, the base.html file. So yeah, that's almost everything on this project that I'll talk about right now. But I really, like I said, enjoy the way that this project turned out and the way that it looks. It was a very fun project to work with, and the technologies that I used would be Python, Flask, MySQL, Bootstrap, Font Awesome, and I would add here as well the Google Maps API. So it was a good project, a good use of API using SQL, this MySQL database to pull that information to work with the Google Maps API. And that would be essentially, right here is getting the latitude coordinates using like the Google Maps API and everything right here. So that's getting your geocode, the full address, and you get the result, and that gives you the user's latitude and longitude, which I could then use in the code right here to display the maps. The one other thing I will say is on the maps page, if I go back there, as you saw back there is a warning, so if I typed in the wrong password as I did, it will tell you. Is getting all these maps to appear like this one after another. I had to use jQuery, and I went back to my Tech Talent South project that I did there to figure out to use jQuery, but I have to say it's one thing I don't fully understand why I had to use jQuery right there, why I just couldn't use one function. So that's just the only part of this project that I don't understand. Everything else I built from scratch, no tutorials as usual, and it was something that I'm really proud of how this project turned out. So I think that's everything on this one, and I'm glad you enjoy watching it. Have a great day.